So I'd say that's about a third of the swale dug. It's taken me best part of an afternoon, but you know, it's not particularly hard work. It's only topsoil and turf. Now, different sources will tell you marking out swales in different ways. The way I dig a swale is some people will tell you that the bottom of the swale has to be exactly bang on contour. Some people tell you the top of the berm has to be bang on contour. The way that I make swales here is, well, the reason I make them is partially so that I can drain the field when it's wet. So I can set the monk, where are we, down in there, like the swivel pipe to 90 degrees, and it drains the water out of the whole swale and keeps it away, so it acts like a drainage ditch in wet weather. So if I've got it set to infiltrate as much water as possible, on a conventional swale that would be to just below the crest of the berm. Well, I don't want that here. I never want that, because part of the reason I'm building it, in fact the main reason I'm building the swale berm at all, is to bring it up so I've got 2 foot of drained soil for trees to go into that's above and beyond the water table. So I'll never want to do that, so I make the point that I've marked out with canes, with to the exact contour line. I make that the transition point of where the original grade, the original level of the slope was. So even when I've got it set to fully infiltrate, it'll only come to retain and infiltrate the water, it'll only come halfway up that swale. It'll only, you know, soak into the bottom half, which really in summer, it, you know, if I turn the pipe up about a third of the way, you know, it still barely ever gets activated. You know, we just don't get that much rain in summer. But it is useful for infiltrating, you know, what rain we do. I wouldn't want just a drainage system, because that would, you know, always drain. So in a sudden summer thunderstorm, you know, we could lose a little bit of water that I'd rather hang on to, you know, get the trees up. I'm about a third of the way into digging this swale out, so I thought it was a good enough point to stop and show how I build a adjustable swale. It's your average swale isn't really always appropriate for wet climates, because they can cause major waterlogging. But this is how I do them, a little bit differently for our context. So I come through with the spade and I make a cut at 45 degrees roughly along the contour, so you can see it between the 2 canes. Then I come through onto the back side, do exactly the same, and then I come along with a spade with 2 downward cuts. I can lever out a big wedge of soil that I can flip over in chunks. It's a bit like an Irish lazy bed for potato growing. You know, it's really simple, it doesn't take long at all. You can see then it's a bit rough in the bottom, we'll deal with that in a minute, but we've created that nice sloped berm effect already. So next I'm going to come through, and off the back of it I'm going to take another cut to give me most of the width of the swale, and again put that onto the back. Now that's not flipping, it's really lifting it, so I do it in slightly smaller chunks, but you know, it's still not a massive job. So that's that done. You can see I've taken another divot off the back and put that behind the berm, and that's starting to look an awful lot like a swale. Now I'm going to come through and roughly level out the bottom. I'm not going to worry too much about level. The level I'm worried about is between the 2 canes, and that's already fixed. I can't damage that at this point. If I go a little bit deep at any point, or a bit too shallow at any point, it'll just cause, you know, a bit of a puddle in the bottom of the swale. Not a big deal. So yeah, next is to come through, tidy that out, and put that between the divots and make myself a nice flat, roughly even swale berm. And that's that. That's all the loose stuff out of the bottom and placed on the berm. Of course, that's not going to stay as a standalone little section of swale. It's going to be connected with the rest of the swale, but this section coming through here between that cane and that cane is going to be the spillway. So that's the section I'm doing next, but that won't have the berm on the downhill side of it. That'll be completely clear, so there's an emergency spillway for the entire swale. And that turf and soil will be dug and moved onto the back of this berm, which is why I did this section first, so that then I'm adding this material onto the back of an existing swale that's been constructed the easy way, rather than putting this material there and then having to fill in with the stuff out of here. It wouldn't be as neat. So yeah, that's the next job. That's about half the swale dug now. It's a good length. It's surprising what you can do with a spade if you're not in any kind of rush. So that's the spillway section completed. It's quite a wide one, mostly to free up a bit more of the soil from this section, so that I can make a larger berm on this bit and a little bit bigger there. So that's quite a bit of berm already prepared. Next section is going to come through here, down to that cane there, so I've put more soil on the back of it already, but I've carefully measured that it's just enough for that first soil flip to fill in the gap, so the next one coming up onto the top will make that a higher section as well. So a good half of the swale contains more soil than came out of the ground, which isn't bad. I mean, it will settle, but it'll still function. So that's it for the day, I think. So that's this adjustable swale finished. You can see it's set to full drainage now, but if I was to twist this pipe up, so this still needs shortening, but if I twisted that pipe up, water would fill up inside the swale that runs in from the black pipe or from overland flow, fill the swale and infiltrate into the ground. But I don't want that at the minute. I want to get rid of as much water as I can, so I got that set all the way down, so all the water is trickling in from there, from the pond across the back there, all of that trickling into this little divot. That's setting the water level for this whole swale, which is a bit of water overnight, so the ground is squelching less than it did when I first started digging. No, this is interesting. Now, when I cut a swale, I keep the contour as the original line of the turf. You can see that there, that's the section that's on contour. So there's a little bit of deviation in the bottom of the ditch. I tend to cut through the topsoil, just pretty much a spade's depth, but there's a little bit of variation there. This morning when I came down, I could see that here there's just a little tiny bit that's a bit higher than it needs to be. So I've chipped away at that with the spade this morning, leveled that out a little bit, and you can see now it's pretty much even moisture across the whole bit of the swale, apart from the section right at the very end, because that's just been dug. But this water will seep pretty much evenly across the whole thing before we're finished. But yeah, and that's as far as I've taken it. Now the contour line from here jogs down a little bit and then goes down even further, well, along even further, but closer to the next swale along. And I don't want that. I like the fact that it's still more or less equidistant between that swale and that swale. It's not extreme, that difference to this point. So I'm going to call it good there. So instead of committing to a drainage ditch and so on, which is going to drain year round, I don't want that in summer, I put this in instead, and slowly, I think there's only one swale that doesn't function this way now, and that's the next one down, so that's next on the list. But there's no rush for that really. So yeah, that's that. Now I just need to get it planted up and seeded, but that'll be another video.